meeting of the Finance and General Purposes Committee on Wednesday, the 19th of November, and my special thanks to three of the officers who stayed behind, Julian, John, and of course Sophie, for being here on this cold night. First up, apologies for absences received. I notice Paul Carter isn't here. Has been an apology?
Yes, he has meeting, work meetings.
Okay, other than that, we're full complement, so thank you, councillors. The next item is declarations of interest. To receive any declarations of disclosable pecuniary interest from members in respect of the business to be transacted on the agenda. Do we have any? No. Okay, that is no good, thank you. Third item on the agenda is the minutes of the Finance and General Purposes Committee from our meeting on the 15th. To approve those and to consider any matters arising from those minutes not covered elsewhere. Has anybody got any comments on the minutes? Anybody happy to propose acceptance of the minutes?
I'll second it.
Okay, so proposed by?
I'll propose it, and are you proposing yourself?
You're proposing.
I'll propose it.
Yeah, sorry, I have got apologies. I'm scrolling through separate documents. FGP 1025-6, written report was presented to the committee in November with final draft submitted to the full council in December. The full council doesn't meet again until January after next week's meeting.
Can I just make a note on here?
Yeah.
Will you, Councillor Green, will you initiate?
Yeah.
I could investigate having a nominated pool of councils to sign off payments. So there's an action, it's probably, sorry, might come under the actions regards nominated pool of councillors.
Yes, Councillor Green and I decided to put that as a May action, basically, because it's sort of more of a standing order type sort of thing.
May for the new year.
Yeah, does that make sense?
Yeah, that's fine. Sorry about that, Sam.
That's okay.
Juggling.
Thank you very much for your contribution.
You want to vote on it though, don't you?
And we need a
Please,
seconder.
I'll second.
So, have we got full acceptance? Martin, yeah. Okay, thank you very much. The next item is public participation. Do we have a? No public participation. Okay, so the next item then is the payment schedules and finance reports. So the first one is Appendix 5A, to receive the Sandwich Town Council payment schedule for the end of September, mid-October and the end of October 25. Does anybody have any comments on these?
Chair.
No. Councillor Miles?
Sorry to sound like a crack record, but again, there are lots of items here from Amazon. There's one which isn't in the detailed statement, over £500, doesn't say what it's for. I'm just concerned that we're spending a lot of money with this company when a lot of that stuff could have been procured locally. And I think it is important that wherever possible we use council taxpayers' money back into the town and not to a global company.
Yeah, I think we understand that, and I think as ever there's a balance in terms of the time that it may take to send officers to get things delivered or to go out to local businesses to shop and so forth, compared with some of the expediency. And I think, you know, I'm sure our staff are aware of the comments, and I'd ask the town clerk to note them again, and to reinforce it with the staff. but
I just
we're
check
after the most economic solution.
Can I just check, we do have an account with carpenters?
Yes, we do.
Yes.
Well,
Yeah.
we receive discount as well, and we use them on a regular basis, including yesterday. But we just have to be very mindful of their price points on certain items. So, yeah, we use them.
And the reason there will be a large item of expenditure on there would be most certainly for the locks and chains that were purchased for.
Wouldn't be that cost.
That wouldn't, I know we paid quite a bit for that, but that couldn't come from anywhere else. We couldn't get it from local.
Okay, all right, so if you note that comment, please, Town Clerk. Everybody happy then with shall I go through all of the schedules and then have one vote at the end?
Yeah.
Okay, the next item then is the bank reconciled statement for August and September. Attachment 5B, are there any comments on this? Other than Mr. Mayor, you have some expenses on this, so I don't know if you should kind of vote just as a point.
Choose not to, yes, that's a fair comment.
Okay. Item 5C, to receive the cash book statement for the end of August and September. Any comments on this? No, so that's all good. And then item 5D, which I hope there will be comments on, to receive the budget comparison report. So should we just vote on the other ones prior to going to this first then? So I'm happy to propose 5A and 5B
See,
and C, sorry, yeah.
I'll second it.
So I'm not voting on 5B,
Okay,
just to make it complicated.
okay,
So I'm happy to
vote for
for
the,
A and C.
okay, thank you. And then the budget comparison report, let's just take a little bit of time with this. Has anybody got any comments on this?
Peter? Yeah.
Sorry.
I think the issue, there's a lot of things where there's significant change between 25, 26, 26, 27. Is that going to be covered later on in the discussion about the budget? Because I've got some, quite a few red linings here, and but they're mainly subject to the fact we're changing the budget.
I think the purpose of doing this review now is to look at how we are performing against the current year's budget. We've got a further discussion later on to look at the budget for next year. So I think it's best order just to focus on this year's budget.
Okay,
And how,
it's just
and how we do it.
most of my underlining is in relation to the changes and the way the
Yeah.
budget's being done.
Okay.
No problem.
Any comments?
Yes, we've got one from.
Sorry, Councillor Anderson.
I think, well, I'm sure we've all noticed the apparent shortfall with the drill hole, where I'm looking at it correctly, or perhaps I'm not.
Yeah, the halfway through the year.
We've actually made half of what we expected to.
Well, that's bang on target then.
Yeah.
For 6 months of the year, halfway through the year, we should get half.
I've got full on that as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
And there was another one I noticed, which is probably has the same explanation, which is to do with the market, improved market. We're moving towards it. In that we expect 7,700 and we're now on 3,079. So it looks sort of on target. Yeah. Okay, sorry, I shouldn't have.
Anybody else got any other comments?
I suppose one comment regards the Monk's Wall Nature Reserve, that there was no budget allocated, but there has been expenditure. Is that something that's within a ring-fenced amount? Is it an amount that will get back into the main budget?
Yes, that is scheduled to come out of the ring-fenced funds.
Back into
So,
the STC.
yeah.
All right, just a few comments then from me. I'm pleased to see some of the improved revenue from the markets. You know, we've got 7,000 in the first 6 months against a budget of 10,000 for the year. So that line is looking good. And the higher of the Guildhall Square other income, that looks like it's falling short, but overall it looks as though it's running on budget. Mr. Mayor, you need complimenting because there appears to be some savings on your mayoral expenses. If we try and project forward. We've got election expenses, we've got 5,000 in for the election expenses, and obviously we hope we won't incur that, so that's looking promising. A bit concerned about the key 13 zips/1, the key conveniences, other expenditure, where we've already exceeded the budget at halfway stage. So we seem to be running, I don't know whether there is an explanation on that, but if you could kind of.
Well, I mean, it's difficult for me to comment about the budget that was set last year for the expenditure.
What was the budget, sorry?
I don't know, but
The budget was 6,320 and we've already spent 6,334.
Just on the key?
Just on the key.
But under the heading of other expenditure, so I think there's a question there, Chair, in terms of understanding what other expenditure actually means.
So we've got a mixture there of the money that is spent on maintaining the toilets there and trying to account for the costs more accurately in that respect. But there have been some other costs that have been incurred with damage and things like that that occurred there.
There's been some,
Which not
some plumbing work. Sorry, John, does that also include the consumables there?
Yes.
Yeah, it's been very extremely busy there, so yeah.
I'm conscious that the consumables, the electricity charge and the water charges are dear. Could I just ask as a little action, could we just have a look at and do a forecast as to where we're going to end up at the end of the year for the key conveniences, because they do seem to be kind of running beyond what I was reasonably expecting. And also, if we look at the HR committee, if we look at 1050, we've got a budget of 90,000. We've already spent 72,000. So again, I think that's something we just need to look at HR and do a projection forward. What is our anticipated final cost at the end of the year?
We can do, but the difficulty there is that we're paying for contract staff, and some of the contract staff fall into that category rather than payroll. So we have to look at the HR costs with the payroll, and even then, it's being incorrect. It's being skewed by the fact that you will be paying an awful lot more to the agency for the use of the staff that we have, which is the assistants, clerk, or the clerk assistant, and myself. So,
but we've had recruitment costs, we've had overlap times and stuff like that. So I just think we need to look at the HR budget in total, because when you look at this, and as I say, the budget is 90,000 or 98,000, and we've already spent 74,000. We've got 24,000 to go, and we've got 6 months.
Yeah.
You know, it looks like a serious overrun.
Yeah.
So if you could just do a mini exercise to have a look at the anticipated final
I can
cost.
restate that. Obviously, I don't know what your future costs are going to be, because it lies with the councils as to what their recruiting policy is, as to whether they're going to continue with external resources or whether or not it's going to go into employed resources.
Well, I
So
think
that's the difficulty.
I think from yourself and the town clerk, and if you've got any specific questions on that, but I think it's basically taking the resources that are in place at the moment and running them through until the end of the year. It's only another 4 or 5 months.
Absolutely, and it's very easy to do, and I can tell you what the overspend will be for that.
Yeah. Okay, because the overspend does look to be kind of significant. I think those are kind of my main comments. There are a couple of other minor comments, but I'll just hang on to that. Okay, councillor Tuke.
Chair, could I go back to the reference you made to the forecourt? And again, it's about understanding what sits within the two lines related to that. So whilst we might pat ourselves on the back in terms of one aspect of the forecourt, we then punch ourselves for another aspect. And the question is it a shift of where the income's been logged in terms of the accounting? So what I would like to know is what were the other incomes that we expect to generate around £1,260 for the year, because they may be featuring elsewhere.
Yeah,
There's no point beating ourselves up about something that actually we have captured elsewhere in the budget.
I'll certainly give a report on what makes up all the analysis of income.
Yeah, thank you.
okay. I think that is important, but I think the overall shift there's £3,000 up on the current market income, and there's £1,000 down on the hire of the Guildhall. It's only a couple of thousand compared with what I was just talking about in HR. Nevertheless, every pound's important.
And just to explain on that, one of the things we've spoken about doing, and I know that I've mentioned it to some colleagues already, is that the intention is that next year that we actually have far more detail in the system to be able to extract that, because the budgets were a lot more restricting in that they cover numerous income lines, and to actually have the definition. For example, one of the positive things that's been happening within the Guildhall has been the hub.
Yeah.
And at the moment, everything is going to Guildhall income. And it's just it's because of the way that the system's been set up, and it comes from the facilities system and advises the accounting system what the income is. But we need to break that out so that you've got the information and you can see that, great, we're doing really well with that unit. Those areas we're not doing very well. And the weddings are growing in this way. So it's something which will definitely be highlighted going forward.
Okay, great. I'm glad you're on top of it. It's really reassuring to hear that. Thanks, John. So if there's no other comments on the budget reconciliation, is anybody happy to, sorry, Martin.
Just coming back to the drill hall, I noted from elsewhere in the documents that we have a loan to buy the drill hall, and I just wondered if the rental income was covering the repayments on the loans.
Yeah, it does. The rental income covers the repayment, but we've also got to include the insurance, and we've also, where we're really struggling, I think, going forward, is provision for future major repairs to the drill hall. That's the area that's really a risk to the council. Councillor Anderson.
I hope I'm not misunderstanding something again, but the HR expenditure, it does seem to be the case that the key conveniences and the capital market conveniences, that we have a budget for salaries, but we're very much underspending it. And I'm not aware why that budget was put in there, because we don't actually employ anybody at the moment to run conveniences, but that's to our benefit and somewhat counterbalances the running over of the town clerk and office staff item.
That's why we want this kind of projection. We can also say, if we look at the staffing contingency, there's a £5,000 budget and we've already spent 23,800. So that's why we need to look at this whole thing look at all of the HR costs in a totality.
Absolutely.
And get this proper projection going forward, because costs are splattered around the budget, but they're not necessarily being incurred against the correct lines of the budget.
That's it. And to explain a little bit further on the whole HR side of things, you're entirely correct with that. That we've been in a situation where I think last year they budgeted for staff being used to actually maintain the toilets, to clean the toilets, and we moved away from that particular situation. With the work that Julian's been doing has been putting us on external contractors, because they're only here for the work that's needed and not sitting around doing nothing. And you'll see when we get to the budgets, that as we go forward into the next year, we are going to be saving money, which is kind of unheard of on a payroll, on a staff resource side of things, but we are targeting saving money over the previous year because of the fact that it was probably not being done in the most efficient way, and you really got hold of it and sorted it out, haven't you?
Yes, I can say that, yeah.
That's good. Are there any further comments on the budget comparison? Are we happy to accept the report with the actions noted?
I propose we accept them.
Anybody seconding it?
Councillor Pennington.
Councillor Pennington seconding.
All agreed?
All agreed, yeah. Councillor Wiles and Marie? Yeah, all agreed. Okay. So that completes agenda item 5. Let's move on to our agenda item 6, which is the priorities. And we have a report from the town clerk following a discussion with myself. And you can see that the list is somewhat kind of curtailed. We've still got this high priority to have a clear schedule to demonstrate that we're in compliance with all statutory, with all health and safety, with all insurance policies, so that we know when the electrical test certificate is up and everything. I'm very confident that everything is in place, but it would be really good to have that schedule, because we're all in the Guildhall now and we all want to feel safe with what the building that we're in, that with the lights on and the heating on, the places are going to go. So thanks, Julian, if you can look into that. Then there are a couple of other things that I don't think we need to bother the meeting with, about the benches on the butts.
Yes, sorry, can I pick up on that? Because actually, it doesn't reflect where we are now.
Mhm.
So what has happened is we've got the community caretaker scheme that is now transferring across to the town council. Any work such as benches on the butts. Yes, that's very poetic. We'll roll into, so we don't want to be running parallel activities. So we've got budget provision that was allocated this year. We've got the town sprucer from DDC who's doing work on the butts. So in effect, as we move forward, and we can close this action, I believe, the community caretaker scheme will do whatever we want to do as a council in terms of any works wherever it might be in the town.
Okay.
So that action has been
Great.
closed in short.
All right, great. And we're going to look at the pool of councillors as part of the standing orders, as we discussed earlier. And then the situation on reserves, we had a discussion about that last time. And again, I think, Mr. Mayor, you weren't altogether happy with the situation about reserves.
Yeah, it wasn't that I wasn't happy, I was confused. So easy to be from my perspective. All I wanted and asked for was just a monetary amount. We talked about percentages, etc. Wherever we set our reserves, that's one element. But I just wanted to know what that meant in terms of finances, because what we have in the accounts is an operating reserve, an amount, and making sure that that is somehow in line with what we would expect to have as this council. And I know from what you said, Town Clerk, that can vary from council to council, but we haven't bolted down is what figure for next year or this year we see as reasonable as our operating reserve.
So just to understand it, all you need is a report on what we physically have in
I
reserve.
don't even need a
And then,
I don't even need a report.
because that's a push button exercise,
Yeah.
the system maintains that. And then in addition to that, what we are targeting, and obviously there are schedules for which dictate what a council of this size should maintain in terms of timescale. So
Yeah,
we obviously,
that was the conversation we had. I'm not 100% certain we ended up with a consensus or an agreement in terms of what the percentage should be. But even with that, I couldn't understand what that translated to a monetary amount.
Mhm.
And I'd go to the accounts and see the monetary amount and see where it had shifted, if at all.
so
So I think for me, the operating reserves is the amount of money we need to move forward for the next 3 to 6 months, and I think we generally accepted it's about 3 months. But this can shift in my mind over the course of the year, because when we're in the final few months of the year and we're waiting for the precept to drop in April, the amount of reserves may be a lot lower. Okay, I'll look at it. Okay, is there anything else on the priorities report 6A from the town clerk that you would like to discuss? Okay, is everybody happy to accept it? I'll propose it.
I'll second it.
And we're all good for that one too. The next item on the agenda is to receive the action log update from the property manager. And Julian, do you want to take us through this, please?
Yeah, sure. So on my list I had regarding the install a lock at the telephone box at the quay. That's now been completed. And I was also asked to reduce or revise what I'd produced before about the Guildhall regarding the work required and the amounts to be allocated. And what I did, I looked a lot closer at all the elements and extended the period of time through to year 34, 35, which enabled us to, say, spread the cost out. But I also put it into the traffic light system, red, amber and green, which I've produced, which you'll have a copy of.
Okay, thank you. One of the first questions for me is that the work that's going to be done for the rest of this year,
Yes.
is it included in the budget? Because I kind of added that up to be something like 19,000 quid worth of red items to happen this year.
I'm not sure about the red items, but all the items for this year, because this summer happening now, £20,234.23.
Right, and they're all happening, and that is included within the budget and in.
Within the direct, that's a question for you, John, I guess, but that's the figure that is required for the 25 to 26. We're still in the 25
for the current
26.
year, yeah.
For the current year, and that's looking at the items that need to be done.
Yeah, okay, understand that. So again, maybe as part of the AFC that you're doing, if you could just double check that this expenditure of £20,000 is included within, or there is budgetary provision to complete that work.
Absolutely. I'll report back on that as well. I mean, my head's very much been in future, but I haven't looked at that quite so much but I know that we have discussed it.
All right. Okay.
Because, sorry, can I just add, if it's not done this year on some of the items, then it's going to be more expensive in next year. So
Understand that, and I think it is included, but as part of our half-year review, we should just check
yes,
that it is there. And if, I don't think we need, if once you've done this exercise, if we can circulate it around as opposed to waiting to the next month to discuss it more, that's great. Okay, so thank you very much, Julian, as ever, a really good piece of work. Sorry? I'm sorry, I don't like sitting chairing meetings for not working there.
Well, I'm very glad to see that insulation work is red, but do you have any timing on it? Because, I mean,
yes, it
is very cold at the moment.
It is. Yeah, no, I wanted to actually have it done the previous month, but it's red. It's work is taking place. And the work will be completed before Christmas. So,
Thank you.
It was just a lot of work was taking place at the same time, but we know exactly what we need, and it's going to be ordered next week. So.
Okay, Councillor Wiles?
Yeah, Julian, do you know off the top of your head what the total cost of this is? It's about 300,000 over 10 years. Is that at current prices or?
No, projected forward. Look at the prices, they increase. On some they decrease because we've done the work. We would have done the work already by the time we got to that point. So You've got a calculator. No,
Well, yeah, we
Yeah,
can just see that we've got a total here, 74.
no, 74 is is the big pay at the,
Yeah. I understand that, well, if we add that column up, it's just over 300,000.
right, okay, yeah.
And is that based on a building inflation index or?
No, that's based on the, let's say, the cost, some of the costs will come down over that time, but it's based on, the build cost to do that work over that period of time.
Right.
It's not attached to, the, RPI.
But sorry, Julian, as I look at it, it looks as though that you've included inflation as it goes forward.
I have, because obviously the labour and costs go up, but there are some costs that you look at and think, well, that's actually less, or it's not in that year, it's because it doesn't need to be done that particular time. So, yeah, it does go up over a period of time. So you can take any of the examples. So 1 year you could be paying the 3,000 and the following year it'll be 3,500.
Yeah.
But of course, anything's subject to change, and where you are with labour costs. But I think it's about as it is as far as I'm concerned. I've done this for coming 30 years now. I think that's fairly accurate. But the most important out of all this document is, if we don't do the work, I'll be more interested in answering the question. If we don't, I'm happy to answer any question, of course. But if we don't do the work, what is the cost going to be then?
Yeah.
And that's really what I'd ask people to consider. So if we don't replace the tiles on the roof that are missing, then we've got problems with the plaster, then we've got problems with the decoration, we've got woodwork, we've got all the other problems. We've got problems downstairs as you walk in the door today. So that's really the key to it, is looking at when it needs to be done. I haven't put it all at the front, I've spread it out over a period of time to assist with the cash flow. But it is, if you follow this route, when it needs to be done, it will be in my opinion, it will be the best method, and it will end up cheaper in the long run.
Yeah.
But I mean, the easy thing would be to say, put it all into 26, 27, let's get it all done. But you'll be looking at 70, 80,000 permission. So,
Councillor Wiles, are you happy with the response there?
Yeah, I think this is a really useful report that will inform the debate later on under your STC STBF relationship report, because what we're looking at really is a building that's costing probably 4 times more than the actual income that's coming in total.
Councillor Wiles, did you have something?
Yeah, I was just going to ask whether, because we're going to have a difficult conversation about budget for next year, whether we can take a sensible view of this year's budget in terms of its likely outturn, and whether we have the opportunity to bringing anything forward that we would expect to do next year. There will be issues about timing, there will be issues about capacity, but I don't want to lose that opportunity if it improves the discussion around 26, 27.
Yeah, no, understand that. As far as I'm concerned, if we've got opportunity under this year, we won't have spent the money. We can ring fence the money and use it going forward. And there's a big issue on the budget as presented, talking about balance brought forward. We don't know what the balance is. Last year there was a significant balance that was brought forward, and we need to get our AFC projection, get a feel for how much money we've got left in the pot. Some of it will be ring fenced for specific items. It might be for computers or for highway improvement or whatever. And we need to understand what monies we're carrying forward. But obviously the income is pretty well set for kind of this year. And if we can underspend in any quarters, the money will still be there. It's not that we will lose the budget for next year. So we would have that money to add to the budget for next year to bring forward works.
Yes, so I understand difficult conversations about the precept, and we have to decide that February at latest in terms of what we're going to expect. And I'm just saying that the financial year doesn't end for the further 2 months after that, so it's not easy. I'm just saying if we have a sense very early in the new year calendar that we have some capacity, I would argue that we should look at bringing some of the work forward from next year so that it doesn't impact the preset. It's all the dominoes.
Might just respond on that point. the reason why on the 26-27 it's lower than the other years. I mean, I'm looking for 20,000 for the remainder of this year. Is the fact that I have brought things forward and I've pushed things out. So that's given us the best opportunity. So where something isn't urgent and it can wait until 27, 28.
Yeah, I understand how you've risk
Yes.
assessed. I'm very comfortable with that. It's just about spending the money.
Yes. Yeah. I understand.
Okay, are we all done on attachment 6B? Anybody like to propose it? I'm quite happy to propose it. If anybody would second? Councillor Pennington? Can we have a vote, please? Councillor Marie, are you in? Okay, so that's unanimously accepted. Thank you very much. And thanks to Julian and the town clerk for their reports there. The next report is one from myself on behalf of the Assets Working Group and from Julian, who made a valuable contribution to this. It's a really detailed report, this, and there's quite a lot of information in it. I don't propose that we go through it kind of page by page, but I just wanted to kind of to summarise that. I really feel that we're very fortunate as Sandwich Town Council that our predecessors negotiated all of this money from the toll bridge. It's a nice problem to have, but the problem really centres here on the Guildhall, the building, and what happens inside it, because everything is so intermingled. From a HR point of view, we've already seen, we've got the Sandwich Town Council, we've got the Guildhall, we've got the museum, we've got the toll bridge, and staff are working across those, both staff and contractors, and it's not easy to get the monies in the right place. We're using the same resources, we're using the same software systems for the finance. We are following similar processes for meetings and so forth. And so there's a lot of work to be done here. And the way that it's set up, I think everybody's in agreement that we're not working as efficiently as we possibly could. And so what are the options? And the options going forward are threefold. Either we carry on with what we're doing and we try and make marginal improvements, or we turn the toll bridge fund into a complete grant giving organisation, so that it would give a one-off grant each year to Sandwich Town Council, and then Sandwich Town Council would just have to manage that just like they have to manage to the precept. The big issue there is this conflict between, because we've got the same governance arrangements, between Sandwich Town Council asking for the money and the members of the council as trustees of Sandwich Town Council granting the money. So there's a big conflict there. And the third option is really to say the toll bridge fund has served its purpose, it's done its day, it's not working properly, it wouldn't stand up to latest charity laws and so forth. So the best thing we could do is completely fold it in, move all of the assets as far as assets can be, because the toll bridge fund is not an incorporated organisation. So all of the assets that are under the name of the toll bridge fund are actually owned by the town council. So all of the employees are employed by the town council. So let's fold it up, accept it's done its day, it's served its purpose. And so I think what we should do is we should examine these three options a bit more closely. We should take legal advice from a specialist as to what the implications of these three options are going forward. We should consult with our stakeholders, Dover District Council as a major leaseholder to us, our residents and so forth. We should consult with them, and we should bring another formal discussion, potentially, a separate meeting to discuss this topic within the next 5 or 6 months, hopefully before the end of the civic year. So that's what this paper is really saying. And in order to do that, what we need to do is we need to engage a solicitor. And I would propose that we engage Girlings, who've got a charity specialist, who have done a good job for us on Maddox, to engage them, to authorise the town clerk with an expenditure of up to £3,000 with money coming from the toll bridge fund, because I don't think the town council has got the monies to do that. And I would like to get agreement that we would instruct the mayor and the town clerk and maybe somebody else to be responsible for the governance of Girlings, to instruct the solicitors, and then bring this report and formally close the asset working group tonight. So it's a bit of a monologue from me, but I hope it's clear. I hope you've had a chance to read the report. It's quite detailed, and I would welcome comments. Councillors Ungerson first, please. I think you've had your...
Councillor Wiles was first.
All right, I didn't. Well, I was looking at you and not him.
Thank you, Chair. It's an excellent report, and it's the kind of detailed analysis that we need to have been looking at for some time, because we do need to face some fundamental issues. My view is that option 2 is the preferred option as far as I'm concerned. I just think that a couple of points of clarification, because you say that the Toll Bridge Fund as a charity, as a registered charity, cannot own property, but the trustee, any assets is vested in the trustee, which is Sandwich Town Council. But Sandwich Town Council as trustee is not the corporate body known as Sandwich Town Council. It's a completely separate entity, if that makes sense. Because when we're sitting here as Sandwich Town Council, we're acting in the interest of the charity, not in the interest of Sandwich Town Council. So this kind of exemplifies why the situation is so muddled. And my view would be, yes, we do need legal advice, but we need a proper council's opinion on this. I think we need to go, to the highest level to get really expert advice.
I understand what you're saying, and you could well be right, but I think in the first instance we need to engage a knowledgeable charity, a solicitor, and if they then need to get council opinion, let them come to us, and instead of going out trying to get. And that's one of the reasons why I've tried to do a detailed report to help with the briefing. But point noted. Okay, Councillor Anderson.
Yes, thank you. I also thought it was an excellent report, and I'm very grateful to you and Julie and Daniels for producing it, because this has been a complete puzzle to me since I became a councillor. And I've always thought that we need to unravel the way in which the town council operates in relation to the Toll Bridge Fund and vice versa. And I personally have always thought that what you've laid out as option 2 would probably be the way to go. All that said, I've got 3 comments actually. The first is that there is a whole politics surrounding the Toll Bridge Fund. People are very fond of it. And they're fond of it because it has historically given, it has to be said, tiny little grants in relation to often to the need for the grant, tiny little grants to local organisations, and those local organisations have a lot of support in the town and have been very grateful. So if we are going to alter the way in which the Toll Bridge Fund operates, we have to be very clear that we are doing that in the context of the existence of the Maddox Fund, because the Maddox Fund is actually going to, in terms of supporting local organisations, replace the Toll Bridge Fund in effect. So I would suggest that we and if we are going to change things, we do have to be very clear about that point. And I didn't actually see it coming out in this paper, and I think it's an important point. The second and related point is that local residents are very fond of the Guildhall. It is an extremely important building in the middle of Sandwich. It is also a money pit, as we know, and uses up a huge amount of resource from the toll bridge fund. And there are some residents who really object to that, as we know, and they are constantly posting on Facebook saying this isn't what the toll bridge fund is for. But actually, if they want to retain the Guildhall as an important building functioning as the political institution of this town, we do actually have to use that money, because we've been absolutely clear that we are not going to use the Maddox Fund to prop up the Guildhall. And I think that's totally right. So we do need a source of money to keep this building going. So I think that if and when we change the way in which the Toll Bridge Fund operates, or swallow it up entirely into the Town Council, which is option 3, then we have to be very clear that we're doing that because things have changed. We've got the Maddox Fund, which will fund small organisations, local organisations. But one thing is not going to change, and that is that we are still located in this historic building. And the only way in which we can do that is by either applying to the Toll Bridge Fund on an annual basis for an amount, which would be option 2, or integrating the Toll Bridge Fund into the Town Council. But I do think we have to be very careful about the PR. That's the end of it.
Okay, Councillor.
Thank you. I'm not sure, but given the complexity of this, and I think it is an extremely good report, but it just shows up tremendous complexity, which, like Councillor Anderson, I've struggled to understand from day one. However, I'm a bit sceptical that 3,000 quid is going to satisfy the legal costs. I suspect it's much more complex than we think. Whether we engage King's Counsel eventually, we'll have to wait and see. But I would be a bit dubious that 3,000 is going to be sufficient, apart from a very quick. On the two other aspects of it, that I agree with Councillor Anderson that the way that this is explained to people is going to be long, complex, and arduous, because there will be the emotional reactions which we just cannot afford. This building costs the earth, and there is no way that we can, operating as a town council, pay for it. And the people are going to have to grasp the nettle. If you want the Guildhall, where's the money going to come from? And that has to be said loud and clear, and it hasn't been in the past, it's been fudged. We're going to have to address that, and that will be a very difficult conversation. I'm not going to say which of these these 3 options I think is the best, because I think we need to get the advice before we can go any further. And I think I would be happy to work, if I continue to be the chair of the Toll Bridge finance side, I'd be quite happy to work with the small group that you're going to set up to actually look at the governance of this. If somebody else wants to take it on, fair enough.
Okay, right. I haven't commented on your response, on your points, Claire, or your saying.
I actually have got another point.
Just make, well, let's go around the table, and if we've got time, we'll come back to you. Councillor Pennington.
Yes, thank you. Yes, in common with Councillor Anderson and Councillor Black, I must say when I first arrived in this council, I was surprised that the Toll Bridge Fund was being used to give small grants, because it didn't seem to be an appropriate way. And so I welcome this paper, and I think it's important. It's a very important issue that we need to clarify. I think, in addition, as Councillor Anderson has said, to being viewed in the context of the creation of the Maddox Fund, we also need to view this in the context of local government reorganisation. I sketched out 4 principles that I think are influencing my thinking about this. The first is the Sandwich Agreement, which appears to be of little use in the current circumstances. A, it doesn't seem to be working very well, and B, it will be outdated in the future. So my first principle would be to review whether the Sandwich Agreement is really appropriate at this time. The second principle is that the Tollbridge Fund should really be used purely to safeguard the physical heritage of Sandwich. And this means that it should be used for upkeep of the buildings and the points that we've already alluded to in the course of this meeting. I would have found it helpful, and I don't know if it's actually in the document somewhere, to know what the Act of, is it 1754? Specifies as to what is possible or not. But that will obviously be an important element of the debate. And the
third point?
The third one, sorry?
Your third point, sorry, I was trying to.
Well, I was surprised incidentally just on the second point that the Tollbridge Fund needs to be incorporated. I hadn't realised there was this difference between a registration and incorporation. The third point is that we should be looking very energetically to find other sources of funding for our heritage in Sandwich. It surprised me when I first arrived that we weren't more active in relation to heritage funding, and I think that's something that is maybe part of the solution to the problem. And the fourth is that in the context of local government reorganisation, as I keep saying, I think the assets in Sandwich should belong to the people of Sandwich.
Okay, thank you.
That's it. Thank you.
Councillor Chuka.
So, trying to look at this from a practical perspective, because we can talk to great detail, and we have done for the last 2.5 years about the problems we've got, but we need to practically agree how we take this forward. And again, I'll echo the fact that the paper is excellent, but all it does is it exposes all the problems and challenges around this issue. This building is owned by DDC, so let's remember that. We are tenants. The Sandwich Agreement is not being adhered to by either party. But that's long-standing for years. So that is one key element that has to be unpicked. I'm just very cautious about, we talk about it, it was also King's Council was mentioned. We've got a charity fund. We have to be very careful because we can be very purist as a group of councillors. We can be very focused on the theory. But ultimately, if we spend 20 to 30,000 on advice and then say it's all too complicated, we don't want to do anything, that does not bode very well from people outside this room. So I would say we have to be very cautious. We have to move forward sensibly. So let's not decide that the finance committee can make the decisions. It has to go to STC, but just as importantly, to STBF, because STBF is a primary aspect of the Guildhall. And then the other practical aspect we have to unpick is this isn't about the legalities of all this. We've got staff spending a lot of time shuffling the deck cards, just because that's how the model's been drawn up. If we can at least simplify the transactional work that goes on, that will be helpful to the council. If we can look at actually having the STBF run outside the council staff in terms of governance, that would be a sensible thing to do. So there are some small things, but important things, that we have a town clerk with their staff having to manage the governance around STBF. It's not right when we've got £2 million fund sitting there, personal view. So it's very complicated. But practical steps, let's not get drowned in the legalities and the King's Council and all of that. Let's think practically as well.
Yeah. Take it, really kind of take points there, important point. Councillor Marie.
Yeah, apologies, I'm going to be quite blunt. So 1972, Sammy's Borough Council, they fought tooth and nail when they were disbanded to a parish council to fight the district council to take this money for the people of Sandwich. If you fold it into option number 3 and take then STC take the money, this council will be eaten alive by the residents and organisations in this town. My strong advice to this committee would be to speak to Councillor Franklin. He's been there since day one. He helped set it up. So I do believe his feel. Yes, I agree that it's been mismanaged over the years, 100%. However, I do feel that this council does need to speak to Councillor Franklin before they go to legal advice and start seeking money. Because, as I said, Councillor Franklin's been here a number of years. He was part of the Borough Council before it went to the Parish Council. He helped set up the Tollbridge Fund. Please do speak to him before you even think about going to option 3. That's my opinion.
Right, thank you. Councillor Augustine.
Okay, well, I appreciate Councillor Marie's comments because I think he's right, which is why I said we actually have to refer to the new existence of an Alex Fund. But my third point, which I forgot, was I'm not clear what we would be asking, what questions would we be asking a legal advisor. I'm just not clear what they would be. And I think we are going to go for legal advice. We really do have to be very clear as to what those questions are. And I've not heard them. That's my point.
Councillor Wells.
Yeah, two responses to that. I agree the PR aspect of this is really critical. If you look at Appendix 4, the Guildhall, we're bringing in 63,000 a year in income, higher fees and so on, and the staffing costs are 162,000 plus all the other costs.
Yeah.
That's not sustainable, but the Tollbridge Fund is putting in 45,000 and the taxpayer through the precept is putting in 130, which is more than a third of the precept. If the people of Sandwich are happy with that, fine, no problem. But, you know, perhaps we need to try and explain that in simple terms. In terms of the legal aspects, I do think we need advice. One of the things that's concerned me for a long time is the lack of a proper governing document for the Tollbridge Fund. People always refer to the Act of 1755. I've not been able to find the wording of that Act, but the so-called document relies upon that Act of Parliament, which, you know, 200 years ago. So we do need legal advice about whether the Tollbridge Fund has been acting as a legal body over all these years. Apart from anything else, then we need advice about all the other aspects. So I think we can't do this on our own. It needs an expert's opinion, whether that's a Girlings or a KC or I don't know.
And just back to my point earlier, and I agree completely with what Councillor Anderson was saying, we need to be clear about what we want to achieve from this. Because getting lots of legal advice on the missing documents will cost money. Will it actually achieve what we need? So we need to know what the objectives of this exercise are. And if it is financial, we need to be very clear about that. If it's about disposing of the Guildhall, we need to be clear about that. If it's about retaining the Guildhall, we need to be clear about that. So they're the things we need to be certain of before we do go into engagements with the legalese. There may be a prior activity that we need to help support us to get to that point of decision making, but this has to be a full council and a full STBF set of decisions where Councillor Franklin and others have a contribution factor to feed in. So if not, we will just spin around, spend a lot of money and actually not go any further.
this group that you've proposed to deal with it are surely the people who are the best tasked with producing a very clear brief for the brief. Yes, we've got to be very clear what we're asking. Legal costs can ramp up incredibly quickly. If we ask the right questions first time round, we may have a better view. The difficulty we've got is that we will have probably so many divergent views that we have to quickly arrive at a sensible consensus. And that needs to be done at STC and STVF. I'd agree with the mayor in that. But I do think you can contain legal costs if you're very clear about what you want to do. And then the PR exercise is going to, it won't work in one hit. You're going to have to keep on telling people, this is the reality of what the present structure costs us. Are we prepared to continue with that? And are you prepared to put your hands in your pockets for it? Because that's where it comes down to at the end of the day. And we've never asked that question.
Do we need to ask the question on option 1 and option 2? Probably not. Option 3 is the real issue where we have to get community buy-in, because to fold the charity, and that would be not us here, because we're currently councillors, STBF will be asking that question. But to keep things as they are, we don't need to go outwards, I don't think. To look at changing the mechanics of how we run the financial arrangements is a decision between the charity and the council.
Yes.
So again, I wouldn't be going out and consulting on that, in my opinion. But they're the two things. I don't think we need that wider thing, because we can go out. And it's back to what Claire said at the start. We can go out and the emotion will override the challenge. There'll be a petition started before we've even put pen to paper.
But that's the reality we have to face. May I respond to that bit? I think you do need to have legal advice about option 2. Councillor Wiles has raised quite some of the issues. I'm really not now particularly happy that we are operating quite how a charity should be operating. And whatever happens, that needs to be sorted, and that has to be due with some legal advice. Because I'm certainly not prepared to sit as the chair of the finance section for an organisation that perhaps isn't operating the way it should do. And you need that.
Okay, I've heard all of the comments. Take them all on board. I've got a number of views about different things. Option 1, as far as I'm concerned, needs to be looked at, because that's the way we're currently working. I believe as the document says, since the charity was set up, there are lots of new charity laws have come into place, and I cannot imagine that the current arrangements would comply with charity law. And if we invited the charity commissioners to come in here, I believe they would probably shut us down.
Yeah.
Right? So let's just be clear that the way we're working now, I'm saying that's my gut feel. There are no purchase orders, there are no invoices, there's no written agreement about a lot of the monies that are being transferred around. Grants have been given by the Toll Bridge Fund, and the purpose was for public works. Now, public works might be fine giving money to Sandwich and Bloom because they're actually doing things in the street, but some of the other organisations that grants have been given to, certainly in my mind, don't comply with public works. And the understanding of public works in 1972 was perhaps more to do with physical street works and buildings than anything else. So that's where I'm. So option number 2, we need advice, we need guidance on that. And option number 3, if we were to fold the charity, we need to clearly understand the steps and implications. I think, excuse me, I take up your point about kind of the legal costs, but I think in the first instance, we need to get a legal opinion to review and to set out as a phase 1 to set out the scope of works and the scope of legal stuff. And that's where I think if we were to instruct Girlings and we can set out some of the questions, but we don't know all of the questions as far as I'm concerned. But with some expert help, we can try and find them. There's absolutely, I did say earlier, the intent is to get a report done, to bring it to the Sandwich Town Council and to the STBF. So, there is, no intent to usurp or to use this committee to try and bypass or make decisions. That's not the intent. I've put a lot of work into this so far. I'd be very happy for somebody else to champion this going forward, because there are a lot of things here, and it takes a lot of energy. The asset working group, for want of a better description, in my mind, kind of failed. We didn't have the contribution from the members of the team, except from Julian. Thank you. So, we don't need to make decisions here. I don't know whether it's intent to put this paper into the forthcoming quarterly meeting of the. So I will be guided, and I note the comments. The report is kind of noted. The next steps are to be decided. I'll leave it open.
Could I just make a suggestion? Sorry, Chair. So it's two things. I do feel that you do need to speak to Councillor Franklin before you do go.
You've made that point.
Yeah, clearly you need to. And also the other thing is, you've got STBF meeting on the 1st of December. Is Mr. Am I correct?
A bit later than that, I think, is it?
Lost track. So we did. First of the
I
10th.
thought we were applying this
First.
evening.
Yes.
So 1st of December, because, but if that, I would like it moved to the following STBF meeting, because obviously I'd like to be there, because I'm supporting the Mayor to Brightonsea for Tuesday Day with Councillor Franklin. So I'd like to make a suggestion that this item is put on the agenda for the STBF full meeting, the next one, which is what?
February.
March?
February.
Oh, it's quarterly, so, yeah.
Yeah, fine.
I think we need the
I'm
time.
certainly, I don't believe I'll be available either in December or in February. So that's why somebody else will need to champion this and take it forward.
What
Okay.
do you mean by champion?
Work on it.
Well, who's going to take a lead on it?
I mean, I'm happy to take it. This has to go to both STC and STBF, doesn't it? So I'm happy to do that, and also to draft a note to a solicitor, asking the key questions, if that would help.
Okay.
So I think we could take it to the December meeting, which I think you're chairing, aren't you? To at least socialise it with members of the STBF. Maybe I can't decide that in this meeting, maybe I need to wait till the later one. However, we might want to talk to the STBF.
This is exactly the problem, isn't it?
And take it there to table it, which gives time then to council whilst to own it between there and the February meeting. Because I think people need time to reflect, and if not, we will get emotional. And if we get emotional in the room, God knows what happens beyond the room. So that would be nice.
My preference would be February, because I won't be able to make the December one.
But you've got, sorry, when it's discussed in February, you're going through the same process as we've gone through tonight, unless you've got clear legal advice.
No. What you've got all the members who are trustees of the STBF. Sorry, are the trustee of the STBF.
Sandwich Council is a trustee of the STBF.
But what members will say is, we can't decide on this because we need advice.
Possibly.
So it will get kicked down the road again.
But sorry, Colin, but my opinion would be, what's the rush? There is no rush.
No, it's a long term.
Still paying for it, still paying for things. There is no rush to push it so quickly. That'd be my opinion. If you're going to get it right correctly the first time.
Let's get it. correct and get it right first time,
Yeah.
every time, which we haven't always done in
No.
the past. However, I do think that this is more urgent than we may think it is. And if you do something like this, is it too short term to try to get it to fit into a financial year? In the sense of, that we have a new financial year, you have a new way of doing things. That's my question. The timescales now may be too tight for that, but it does strike me as this is something that we really have to try to do, because you don't want to change horses in midstream, do you? It's got to be done right, but let's also think about timing. And the other point I would make is we are able to hold extraordinary meetings of Sandwich Town Council. What is to prevent us from having an extraordinary meeting of Sandwich Tollbridge Fund, which will, at a time that we're more likely to get more key people involved, because it's coming up to the holiday period, there's other commitments with other councils and so on. Let's be realistic. Would a date early in January be a better option? I don't know, but that may be something else. Councillor Breen, you put a great deal of work into this. And whilst I welcome Councillor Wild saying that he's prepared to take it forward, I think your contribution for the amount of work that you and the property manager have done is something we should not lose at any meeting. So I would propose that we think long and hard about, can we have an extraordinary general meeting?
So the Tollbridge Fund has had extraordinary meetings in the past, especially with grant applications, emergency grant applications that I've been involved in, so it can happen. It has happened before.
Yeah. Well, we'll find that out and see what we can do.
Okay, so bringing it to a close then, what we're saying is we accept this report. It raises a number of questions. The report, or maybe a refinement to the report, should be brought to a meeting in the first quarter of next year. Are we going to try and get some legal review of the situation to supplement the report for the next meeting or not?
We don't have
shaking
authority to do that. No.
Sorry?
We don't have authority to do that. Do we?
Well,
STBF would have the authority.
We would have,
So
to
I
decide.
just read the standing orders. The chair can call an extraordinary meeting of the STBF, but also two councillors can request one.
Yeah.
So that there is capacity for doing that. I think this is something we're doing the first part of the new calendar year.
Yes.
And we then table what we've got here today, so we get all members at the meeting to at least kickstart where we go with it. We don't start on legal advice before then.
okay, all right, that's clear.
Yes, I would like to, I'm pleased that we have the capacity to have an extraordinary general meeting of the Tollbridge Fund. But I would like on that agenda, if possible, to have a paper which suggests the questions that we would ask of a legal advisor, whoever that may be. Because I do think we need to be quite clear, and lawyers expect us to be clear as to what it is we precisely need their advice about and not.
Yeah, and that's why I would share the reports that we've got here with all members, not just 3 days before the meeting. We should have enough time to think through and ask them, Councillor Green ask them to think about the questions that they can bring to that meeting. So we at least start that process, if not complete it.
Okay. Well, I think that's what I was suggesting when I kind of introduced it, to say that we need to nominate a small team of people to supervise and instruct the solicitor. So that the first step of that is for that small group of people, the mayor, the town clerk, and whoever, would be to draft the questions and set out the objectives and some of those things. So that is the natural next step from this paper.
So my opinion would be, is to send the exact context of this paper to make an extraordinary meeting. STC cannot make decisions for the Tollbridge Fund, so the Tollbridge Fund have to make their decisions. So you say about get the team together, great, yeah, I'm all for that, I'm happy to be part of that team. However, it has to be the Tollbridge Fund that makes that decision.
Understand that?
Can I just clarify the actions then? I mean, at the moment, I've got the report was discussed at length, and there was a wide range of opinions. I think that's really where we are. The STBF Tollbridge Fund EGM will look for a date in the first quarter of the new year, and to that report, to that meeting, we'll bring a report on the questions that we could ask a legal advisor.
So in terms of process, what I would ask is the chair of this meeting will send the report to the chair of the STBF, outlining discussion and requesting whether he at the moment, would consider arranging a meeting extraordinary STBF in the new year.
Okay.
In terms of process, we can't decide there will be a meeting, unfortunately.
Can I just, sorry, Councillor Black, can I just ask, is this part of the STBF finance paper when we speak about next?
It wasn't on the agenda for the STBF.
Because it would have been wise to put it with the STBF finance, within the finance.
Well,
this one.
it wasn't put on it, and so I wasn't aware of it until fairly late in the day. You, to a certain extent, we'd be going over exactly the same ground again, and this is the whole problem with this meeting. Is that we are covering the same ground, or almost the same ground. You know, if we think of the Venn diagram, there's a huge overlap.
I get that, because we've done it in the past. However, you would have more of a, apologies, Councillor Breen, you would have more of a say as chair of the STBF finance, because then you could say, well, we want to call an EGM or an extraordinary as the chair of the finance of the STBF.
I will slip it in that in the agenda somewhere. I've got two other A or B items, and I'll say that, but I'm not convinced it's worth having a separate discussion about it.
So can we close things down, because we've got a lot to get through? What I would ask is two members of the STBF who could request it could be the two chairs of the finance committee. So if you did it jointly to me, then I can consider whether we can do anything.
We can do that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Can I just add one thing? That Councillor Green said he's away in February, so the meeting,
Yes.
this extra meeting.
I'm sure that'll be covered in the notes if it comes to me.
Well, that's precisely my point. That we have got, let's try to get Councillor Green's input, and because there's an awful lot of work, and also the property Mr. Daniels. You know, we've got to make sure you're available as well, because you put a lot of work into this as well. And we want to get as much expert opinion to say, this is what the reality is, this is what we could do, and I wouldn't go there with a barge pole if I were you.
That's what
But should we propose and second it and? Yes.
Oh, propose it?
I'll second.
Do that, yes.
I'm not quite sure what that, what we.
The actions.
The action is to
note the report.
Yeah.
To note the wide-ranging discussion, and to note that there's going to be a request to the chair of the Tollbridge Fund for a special meeting to discuss this. Is that it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you all. Oh, sorry, and Councillor Wiles is going to pick up the baton a bit.
Can I just ask a philosophical question? Is it possible to have a joint meeting of the STC and STBF?
No, it's not.
No. Have to be separate.
Shows the absurdity of the situation.
Yeah.
got in one.
All right. So, we've now concluded item 9 on the agenda, and we're ready to move on to, item 7. We're now ready to move on to the budget discussions, and we've got attachment 9.
Sorry, that's my fault. Line 8 got month. So from 7 to 9.
Okay, and this is the introduction to the budget by the responsible finance officer, including Sandwich Toll Bridge Fund. Do we need to vote on our acceptance of this as an agenda item? I wonder. Okay, do you want to, how do you want to do this, John, or do you want me to run through it and
I'll
throw it
launch it
open
on the
for
screen.
comments?
Can I launch it on the screen
Please
and
do,
take
yeah.
it that way, then we'll read it that way? Just trying to get launched.
I'm freezing.
I'll turn the radio as well. Yeah. We turn the radio.
Is it turned off?
It might be.
Bloody hell.
Here we are.
I mean, there's economies and there's economies.
Right. That's not much, let's worry about it.
It's not plugged into the hand, but it was full.
Otherwise, I'm gonna
Are
stand
you
up.
on that batteries?
No, it's completely full of power.
Somebody falls.
Just can't get it.
Can you email it to me and
This isn't switched on this TV.
No, but I can't get the laptop to come on. The laptop's just died.
Do you want to email it to me? and-
It's coming alive. So look.
I've been outside all day.
Okay. Bless you.
Yeah, I do apologise.
Have a bonfire.
Do you want to press the green button? I don't know.
Well, DDC want £5,000 for the car park. For the fair. £5,000 they want. They've asked them to-
BBC.
No, DDC,
STBF, it's got to be.
no, Dover District Council have requested the Sounds Lights pay £5,000 for the use of the Guildhall car park for the fair for Christmas lights.
And do we get a share of that as SDBF? It's a serious question.
39% of the profit.
39%.
It's one of the papers.
Yes,
So,
Have they paid us yet for last year?
yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
I raised it with the leader and it came through a couple of days later.
Well, we had some interesting questions as to what they charged for this. Are we being charged correctly?
Can't see the wood. Thumbs up, smiling.
Good.
bottom corner, second one down, second one across.
Yeah.
Just make sure that's not shown.
Should be, yeah. Can I just, yeah, a good point from Councillor Marie, that we have got a tab at the bottom, which is salaries. Can we make sure that we don't open
That's
that
not
up?
shown, please, it's confidential.
Yes. Can I just ask on that matter? It's currently showing. It's currently everything's blocked out.
Yeah, so it's redacted, but I just
Yeah.
don't want people taking screenshots. who might
No,
want-
so it's currently
They run
blacked
through
out.
an exercise of trying to work out who it is. It's not really.
That's fine.
sensible.
We've all got it on our laptops or go.
Okay, cool.
Well, it's different.
So, just trying to find one particular attachment I just said. Sorry, get off.
No, John,
No,
stop.
Keeps on coming up and trying to get rid of it. I apologise.
Just hiding it.
Should we turn the
Right,
telly
turn
off?
off the
Let's
screen.
turn the telly off until we've got it sorted.
So let's do that. Thank you. This is a common sense approach. Let's get rid of that.
I'll get it for you.
Oh, thank you. It's now completely gone from the document. Right, so my apologies. I know that there was some discussion about whether or not this should be looked at in conjunction with STBF, but I'll just stick with the agenda as it is and just go through STC, keep it simple. So this page that's, I apologise for the number of documents that I sent out, but it really was a reflection of the fact that we have the system which generates a budget report, which is very, very unwieldy. So I tried to summarise it into a spreadsheet, and then some of these spreadsheets are looking at figures in a different way. And this is exactly the same as what the system currently shows for the budget, where we're measuring it and showing the year-to-date actual figures, the budget for the previous year and the budget for the current year. And there will be some exceptional items on here, but I'll get to them in due course just to explain it. So the budget was prepared at first by establishing the potential and targeted revenues and then the overheads for the running of the STC. The revenues are an estimate based upon the expectations of the officers, starting with what we currently achieve and what we expect to achieve, with the latter sometimes being dependent upon the STC's investment in growth and commercial success, and I'll come to explain that a little bit more as we go through this. The expenses and the overheads consist of fixed and variable running costs, and again, we are dependent upon the officers for negotiating better rates and value for money in new contracts and better resources. And these efforts and achievements will become apparent in further considerations, which I'll outline in the report as we go through this. Then finally, there is the wishes and plans for the future, costs and matters, the exceptional and extraordinary expenditure not already covered. This is most apparent from the pro formas submitted and the property maintenance budgets prepared by the property manager, and this represents a further £89,000 for STC, and we'll have an opportunity to consider each of these costs to see where we go with it. However, I also wish to raise the matter of STBF. This budget to be discussed by the STBF committee is very much dependent upon the contribution of STC. It's already been mentioned earlier today that there's a contribution towards the Guildhall. And when I talk about STBF, I'm talking about the global charity, not the individual elements that we currently analyse. So at the moment, the council currently pays a contribution across, and it's towards the running costs, and also a contribution for the Guildhall because of the exceptional cost and shortfall in what we currently generate in income. Versus
Sorry, you said the council pays, STBF pays across to the council.
the council contributes to STBF.
Yeah, 130,000.
So 130,000 was the previous year, what was actually paid across. And there's, in this budget here, the proposal is to increase that if the current costs stay as they are. But we'll get to that particular matter separately. As I say, it's also intertwined that sometimes it's easier if we have both committees in at the same time and do it all as one, but I know we can't do that, so this is the way that we're taking it going forward. I just really wanted to also highlight that the all of the additional expenses and the pro formas, I think that before we had that, there was a budget that was initially done for the overall group, and if we just highlight, ignore this element of it. When this budget was originally done, the amount of precept required to run the council's regular outgoings was far less. But obviously, in this particular schedule here, which you wouldn't have seen because this was just the process of how we built the budget up, because the budget is built upon all our regular incomes and expenditures. Most of those expenditures are pretty fixed, and a lot of them, and one of them is very substantial, which is a variable cost, which is the payroll. And the payroll itself, even though it is substantial, it's what was proposed and put forward to the HR committee was a budget for the following year on the HR side, which is actually lower than the previous year. And as I say, that's usually very unusual, but it's very much a consequence of the work in trying to get external contractors to be on site just for when we need them, rather than employing staff that perhaps aren't fully utilised all the time. And it does realise a savings by actually taking that approach. I know a lot of work was done by Mr. Daniels here to actually achieve that. But in looking at this particular report here, what's quite interesting is that if we didn't have all the additional expenses that have been proposed, we would be looking at an excess, a substantial excess, but that's not the nature of where we are here. We are proposing a lot of additional costs, and I'll go back to that because that's obviously what we had to work with, and that's why prior to this we were looking at a nominal precept, and we're now looking at quite a considerable one as an increase. So we will get to that in due course. When we look at the STC budget that I showed originally, the revenue lines are showing growth where we feel that we can target it. The outside sources income is showing an increase, and this is mainly as a consequence of rent reviews that are being conducted at the moment, and where the budget was previously set too low. If you look at what's actually been achieved in the year to date on the outside sources revenue, halfway through the year we're looking at 12,000, and there was only a budget set for 23,000 for the whole year. We think that we're going to achieve more than that in 26, 27 because of the rent reviews which are currently being negotiated. We don't know where that'll finish up, but this is where we expect to be with some of the additional costs that need to be uplifted with our tenants. And that's specifically the drill hall is one area. Is that correct?
It's a rent review at the moment, yes.
So the drill hall is being rent reviewed.
Yeah.
And that's the most significant one there. The other ones are just falling in line with what we were achieving.
Sorry, let's just try and move on a little bit quicker. So what you're saying here at the moment, you're proposing that the precept is going up from 330 to 400,000, an increase of 70,000, which is over 20%.
Yeah. Yes.
Is that palatable? It's not palatable.
No, it's not, and I'm not proposing it either.
Right, so we need to look at how we can get the precept down to closer to 330,000. So
Yes.
Can we just start examining what that delta of 70,000 is and go through that? And
Yes.
can we just look at those now then, please?
So you want me to jump ahead and ignore the changes in the income and expenditure? Okay.
Well, we need to do it one line. We'll come back to this, but let's just go back to.
So looking at the overheads, we have.
No, I want to look at the income.
Right.
The precept, the £70,000 additional in the precept calculation.
Yes.
How's that made up?
That is made up because it's what's required to balance the budget.
So I think
That's the simple truth, is that what we have our regular expenses to run STC are currently in there, our regular incomes, that including what we think we're going to achieve, are in there, and what's been proposed is additional costs. And
Okay,
those
so
additional costs are 89,000, sorry,
if we look then at outside sources expenditure, it's gone from 31,500 to 72,000. So what accounts
What's
for
driving?
that? What's driving that increase or more than doubling it?
so what's driving that is the repairs budget.
Right, so we need to, let's have a look at, can we just see, if we go back up, if we just go back up on the screen, back up to line 20 or whatever it is. So on line 21, you've got outside sources expenditure,
Yes,
72,000.
yes.
Can we just drill down into that
So that
72,000?
£72,000 includes £48,000.
Let's have a look.
Okay, let me jump forward to it.
All right, it's all built up, is this summation up in the cell here?
Yeah, let me jump forward to another report which will actually pull this out in a different way. It'll probably help. Let's just do it that one. Wait a second. Oh, I hit it, but it's disappeared. Wait a second. So this is exactly the same report here. I'm just going to, so we've got, let's just check that everything is in line with it. The 100, no, it's not, sorry. Apologies, I've got 2 million times. There we are. Let's get rid of this.
Hit it.
Yeah, it should have unhead.
Sorry?
No,
Yeah, I was intentionally hiding it.
that's it.
So there we are.
Yep.
So this is the same report which should come down to the same figure. It does. So you were asking about the
£72,000 outside sources
Yes.
expenditure.
so the outside sources expenditure in the previous year was 31,000.
Yeah,
On the regular expenditure, it's going to be 23,526
yeah,
plus the £48,800 down there as the building maintenance programme, which has been proposed on the properties that is part of an additional report.
but it doesn't the 21,000 already include?
48,000, sorry.
No, doesn't the 21,000 that, you've said it's the 48,000 plus 20 odd thousand?
Gives us the 70,000 that we looked in the other report.
Yeah, so what does the 20 odd thousand include?
So the 20 odd thousand is the regular maintenance. So if you want me to provide an analysis of every single cost line, I can do, but I probably can't give that to you now. So I can go away and give you that, but that will be whereby it'll be the additional. So if we, for example, so I was just going to say, for example, for any of those outside areas, it would be the utilities, it would be the contractors that we use for maintaining them.
Yeah.
And those are all the
So
costs.
I think that we have if we didn't have a building maintenance programme that the property manager has proposed, then we would still have regular maintenance requirements, like we might have pat testing, we might have whatever it is, that there will be stuff of servicing, like boilers, etc. Whatever it might be, will constitute an ongoing cost of it, and that's the base cost. And then the additional is the 48 that we have got separately articulated by the property manager.
The 48 is new cost.
Well, it's not new, it's
Not new, well, sorry,
it's cost
additional
that
to
we're-
what we do at the moment.
Yeah.
No, you've got a baseline of 21 plus, okay.
So this was actually submitted as one of the attachments,
Yes.
and it was the STC maintenance budget.
Yes.
And
look at
there's a full breakdown in there of all the different additional exceptional costs that need to be done.
Spread over the years.
And an hour ago, I said, or maybe 2 hours, I said that we should look at is there anything that we can do within this year as opposed to next year, because we may have capacity financially to do it.
So, so that's the main reason for the uplift in that figure. If we take that figure out, we don't do any maintenance, then obviously we've already discussed about the risks that are involved. We could have increasing insurance premiums when things start going wrong. We may become uninsurable when things start going wrong. And we need to obviously keep that maintenance program up to look after those assets. Some of those costs, those properties, St. Peter's, is that in here?
And this is the STC one we're doing, sorry.
Yeah, STC is not in here.
Yeah,
is it?
it's not, no,
No,
it's
that's fine.
STC.
So that's not in here. So this is everything that's in that schedule of repairs that are actually submitted. And it's just to be considered along with all the other pro formas that have been put forward as to what we are going to do going forward.
So these are assets that are owned by Sandwich Town Council. We're talking here about Boatman's, we're talking about Fishergate and the likes.
Yes.
Okay,
So just to try and accelerate the discussion, we should look at the big ticket items in the red boxes.
Yes.
I put in the highway improvement plan to increase it. We haven't spent anything this year because of the slowness of our effort, but also KCC's response. I would propose, and this is just simple mathematics, that we don't increase. We've got a highway improvement plan of around about 12k already. It's ring fenced, I hope, and that's what would be carried forward to next year. I don't think we add in an extra. That was just I did it in the sense of, well, we should look to keep on increasing it. We can't, so we shouldn't.
yeah, okay, well, I put in 25,000 for the local
Yeah.
government reorganisation.
I don't think we should.
You don't think we should?
No,
Well
because
then, when it comes to local government reorganisation, we've got no money, we don't talk about it.
so that's my personal personal view.
Don't ask us to do anything.
Can I just add a little comment on that? And that is, I did have a discussion with the leader of the district council and about asset transfer with reference to the Jubilee Centre, and he made it quite clear that there would be no sale price.
Yeah.
That if assets were going to be transferred, and I rather take it that he meant any asset, not just the Jubilee Centre, that would be free.
Okay, but
We would not be charged.
but you would have some, you would incur legal costs and so forth.
Yes.
How much legal costs would you anticipate you would incur?
Well, I didn't ask that question.
No, but, well,
I
so,
mean, I don't know whether they would be substantial, it would be incorrect.
So
sorry, this allowance wasn't for
Yeah.
the purchase of
No, it's
assets, it
legal.
was for
yeah, so
the associated
Can I
costs.
just be clear, that we are looking at something that I don't think will get moved. So Councillor Wiles was with me at the local reorganisation event, the parish and town council event, which majored on local reorganisation. The very clear, so putting that in there for me is a erroneous cost, because there is no appetite at the moment from DDC to transfer assets out. That's a clear view I've got. I hope Councillor Wiles agrees with me on that. So preempting the thought that any transfers will happen is very unlikely. So we shouldn't be earmarking 25k for something that we won't spend if the consequences, the precept goes up by over 20%.
I agree, but I don't think that was the view
No,
weeks ago.
I know, and if we go back to when we put in our list, which was in June, to now, which is 4 months, 3 months, 5 months later, 5 months later, despite umpteen attempts from me personally, but also through other means, we have had no engagement.
Okay, let's take it out and move on. Would you take out the
I know
25,000?
People have principal views in terms of
Well,
assets ownership.
Well, no, I was going to support the idea that it would be premature to put an allocation in the budget. We may know more at the end of this month, but as of today, I would think that we don't have a basis to do that.
It's not going to happen for at least 2 years anyway, I don't think.
Okay, I agree, it's premature.
Let's take it out and move on. Sorry.
I think there's a danger of being bogged down in detail. We need to, my view is we need to just focus on the big changes.
Yeah.
There's 3 or 4 big changes.
Yeah.
Which
I don't, I think
This
that's
is,
actually,
this is the largest single, one of the largest single items.
Yeah.
And by all means, 25K, I think is excessive. I think to have no contingency for any legal cost is equally dangerous.
So I would suggest we do need a small amount because the sandwich agreement, which in some ways is part of reorganisation, we need to look at the sandwich. So even if we don't pursue the detail that you've presented, the sandwich agreement really needs to be looked at properly because it's not being complied with. It includes a property that we own, but DDC take the income. It includes a property that we don't own, and we spend all the money on it. And DDC are minded to have a conversation about the transfer of that to us. I'm not surprised, but that hasn't been followed up formally. So I think, if anything, I think it's reasonable to put a small amount.
Could I propose that you talked of no more than 5K, you might have a little bit less than that, but I think that, yeah.
Yeah.
I would propose that we put a contingency in for 5K, not 25K, because I'm very unhappy having nothing.
can I add in the context of the budgets discussion, can I just add that one of the things that I know it was mentioned earlier on, something about balances brought forward, and it's something that is going to be brought up at some stage. I'm only talking about my understanding of it, is the fact that obviously the budget is set, especially for the council. Obviously, we have to fund through the precept what we're going to be spending. And that's the start and end of it, as I understand it. We have reserves, we have general reserves, and the general reserves can be used, in my understanding, for unexpected expenses that might arise.
Yeah.
So if we have general reserves that are there, then if something does come up such as this, then it's a decision that's taken at meetings to actually say, let's spend that from the general reserve and not worry about it as being part of the bigger budget picture, because it may never happen. That's all I'm saying, and I don't know whether that sounds right or wrong,
No, it's a good
because
point.
I'm new, and so
Yeah.
it's.
So John, can I just clarify? So this year we have a ring-fenced amount for the highway improvement plan of 11,000 and something.
We do.
That will exist next year.
Mhm.
That's fine.
Yes,
That's fine.
those reserves are still there,
Yeah, that's fine.
and obviously, if there was any consideration to increase those reserves or reduce them on any particular thing, then that would be reflected here. And that hasn't been proposed to me at this present time. Sorry, let's just get that back on.
Yeah, well, it was my understanding that the balance brought forward for last year was £35,004.
It was.
And the reserves or contingencies, because on your proposed budget for this year, you're saying a £40,430 of contingency. Am I right? That's the bottom line that I'm seeing here.
Sorry, is that going to come back on?
Not yet.
Technology's wonderful. Right, sorry, so it's up on the screen. So you're referring to the overall all those costs, or?
Yeah, on the overall budget for the year, your bottom line before the 708,000 was 40,000.
40,000, I can't.
40,430. On attachment 9, front page.
It's the first page of that, of your
Contingencies.
sheet.
That's contingencies, isn't it, Josh?
That's contingency.
That's contingencies, 40.4.
And
All of the pro formas submitted together with the building maintenance programme is £89,230. That's all of these items here highlighted in red, which includes everything there and the building programme.
And that's,
I flipped to this sheet just purely because it showed the building costs as part of the do you want to spend this, which obviously I'm not, I just wanted to highlight it separately on here because in the budget it's showing in a different expense line.
right, well, can we just, for expediency, let's quickly go down these red items. We're saying the government reorganisation,
Get rid
put
of
a
that.
maximum of 5,000.
five, I would suggest.
So if you change that 25 to 5, please.
You
John.
want it to put to 5, okay?
Right, contributions for the new bridge, we're leaving that there at 2,000, are we?
Sorry, Mr. Mayor, I'm jumping in. We've made up with the Town Council have made their decision to pay £2,000 to Dover District Council.
So that's
Take it out, remove it, doesn't need it.
So, what I would say is, looking at their current projections, they will start the work early in the new year. They're going to do pre-work before Christmas. So I think we might want to accept the risk that we actually pay the 2,000 out of this year's budget.
Okay, well then take that out.
2,000.
John, we can take that £2,000 out there.
The forecast is paid this year.
Yeah. Ainsley Court ramp,
I think that's a long-standing commitment. We need
Yes,
to
it
get
is.
that in there.
the fruit tree planting,
£250.
highways improvement plan then,
Take that out.
take the highway improvement
Yeah.
plan, take that out. The play area,
We need to leave that, and we've made a commitment, a decision as a council that
the
we will.
posters,
If these were the ones we were going to use, one set at the cruise terminal to advertise sandwich, the others were going to have 2 or 3 that we can use for any events, anywhere for things like the Wake Park when we've put a store there, or in the Guildhall, in the forecourt, and any other open events. I think some are so small I would retain it.
okay, the tourist brochure,
Again, we're running short of tourist brochures already. We've got a significantly reduced cost. We should keep that. And the map.
okay, the peace monument, yeah, sorry, Joan Clark.
Sorry, Councillor Black, there was some discussion with Lindsay, the information officer, about, there is a map that's already produced that
There-
is.
There is a map that Compass, no, well, this is why I've had a meeting with Compass. I'd like to talk further to Compass, that if we make changes to their map, they're going to look for some funds from us. It's taken them a year to get a sponsor for the current map. And it just shows you how long it takes to get sponsorship in this town, and that's from a commercial organisation. So I'd like to continue that discussion, but I'd keep that 700 in at the moment. If we can cut it back, yes, we can certainly do that at the moment. Pardon?
Small amount, let's
Yeah.
leave it in for the moment, because we're going to recast these figures in any case.
Peace monument, peace monument,
So we've got a report going to next Monday, and that's relates to the moving of it from where it should be.
isn't that this year then?
No, it will be
In the
next year.
budget for
Next year.
Max Mayor badges 2,000.
Yeah, we haven't got any. And we haven't got any ex-mayors at the moment, but.
£2,000.
Yes, they're silver.
And how many are you having done? 2,000?
2.
At the moment, that will do nothing more than that, that's right,
Three.
because the majority of the cost is actually the dye.
Yes, it's a
dye.
special dye that goes on
The
the
dye
flags.
went missing.
Oh, so it's a new die that's being cut.
So the jewellers that used to be down in Potter Street, they since closed down, they had the dye, they used to make them for the council. Since then, the dye's gone missing, and they've shut down, it's now a house, typical. So that's what the reason for it, to find a new supply for the dye and also for the makers of the badge.
Is it an essential thing that we should continue?
Well, yeah, because it's tradition for each ex-mayor to gain a past mayor's badge. Every single mayor that I've known of, the 5 that still remain within the town, have got one.
Is it the 2 badges? Or 3? It's not 1.
Yes, this is the initial estimated cost, we haven't had the final cost back.
Yeah.
For 2 badges.
So the question is, you could halve it and say we can get through next year, as long as there's no.
But if the cost is in the dye,
The cost is in the die, so it won't, virtually all of that is the,
yeah,
Once it's up and running, it's going to be far cheaper in the future.
knock about,
Yeah.
10 a penny. Okay, so we leave that in, and then we're back down to the building maintenance programme.
Okay, so,
Julian.
yeah, hi. So this doesn't include, it's nothing to do with the Guildhall, this is just STC, just so I can clarify my own mind. The biggest expense, and I assume we've got this, haven't we? Yep. Okay, so the biggest expense would be Fishergate. Okay, the biggest one at Fishergate would be 30,000, but that's only if the grant funding application doesn't require a contribution. So if it doesn't require a contribution, then that 30,000 can be removed. So if they require a contribution, then that 30,000 should stay in there. But we've also, the windows are getting worse. There is work there as well. So if we don't get the grant funding, then that 30,000 should sit in. If we do get the grant funding and we don't need to put any contribution in, then that 30,000 can be removed.
You feel
When will
lucky.
we know? Do we have a date as to when we might know?
I've literally just got because there's a process, and the process is I have to get the scheduled monument consent, which I've just got. That's a trick in itself, but I've now got the monument, and then I can now do the rip out stage. So I hope we've got some money this year for that. That's part of it's free, but I've obviously got to remove, have the rest of it.
Okay, Mr. Mayor, what do you think? We need to
Yeah, so
move faster.
within the 48, there is an element of things that you know you have to do, and it's not related to the grant funding. It's
Legal
what I hear.
requirements.
Yeah, there are things you need to do, not related to the grant funding. Is that right? Is that what you're saying? You've said windows are deteriorating.
In the 30,000, if we don't get the grant funding, we'd want to have 30,000 in the pot just in case. It does need that work. It's going to need to be done.
Could go down by
15 grand,
It could go down 30,000, yeah.
15,000 is for the windows.
15,000 for the windows, yeah. 5,000 for plaster work underneath, and some work on the roof and chimney stack. Put 10,000 for that.
So just reverse that back to you, Julian. Are you
Yeah.
saying the minimum amount we need for next year is 30,000?
If we don't get the grant funding.
If you don't get the grant funding, that's what you'd need to put in that pot. If you do not get the grant funding for the full amount.
Sorry, can I clarify? I think that's not, I think what we're saying is that if you don't get funding, it's 48,000. All of your repairs come to 48,000.
No. You're adding all the properties together. No.
Yes, I understand what you're saying. 48,800 is for all the work that needs to be done across various properties.
Yeah.
Within that, there's 30,000 that we will have to pay if we don't get the grant funding.
We're very likely to pay within that year, given the condition.
There's literally, Julian took me across, there is literally a hole this big in the beautiful stone windows. The elements are coming through, and the sand, it's very soft sandstone, and you can see the hole getting bigger.
But we are talking here about 19 or 49, and we don't know which one it's going to be.
That's it. You don't know.
My concern is if we leave the £30,000 in there, if we leave the £30,000 in
That's
there,
what's
and
scary.
we get the funding, you'll now charge them that you'll put the precept up for no reason.
Yeah.
And the discussion was made a couple of months ago regarding the Fishergate, and I made it quite clear, if we don't get the funding for the Fishergate, we sell it. Because it's that's my opinion, because it's wasting money.
Okay, let's take it out. Let's take the £30,000 out for the time being. If we don't get the funding, we're going to have to find the money from reserves if we need it for emergency reserves, or we're going to have to borrow it from the toll bridge.
I think that's a
We're
good
going to have
approach.
to get it
We
from
can
somewhere.
we can prioritise what elements of those 30,000 have to be done.
That's it.
John, can I make sure that you do because we're going to have to go up to the full STC on this. We need commentary why so don't just write something out and people don't realise it was ever there.
Okay, and we've got obviously recording, haven't we?
Yeah.
So,
I must say, I think that's quite a dangerous line of approach. But
sorry, I didn't hear what you were saying.
It's a risk.
I think it's dangerous not to do those repairs. But anyway.
Yeah, I think there's the need for it, because obviously it's a public liability as well, isn't there? There's a risk of things falling.
Julian, what's your view in terms
okay,
of
so-
the grant application process, or is it completely?
It's complex. It's a very complex process. There's a lot of competition. So, all I would say on that 30,000 is that yes, the repairs to that window were going to need to be done, but for this financial year we're talking about, the roof and the chimney at 10,000 would probably be able to be removed anyway. That probably wouldn't need to be done. It's not, it's better condition than this roof. So, So as far as the grant funding,
Why shouldn't we? Why for now? Why don't we put back in the cost of the windows repairs?
15,000 halves it. That's a good idea.
15.
Okay. All right.
I've got a question,
Yes,
which is, you talk about the 30,000. Is that because the Heritage Lottery Fund or whoever you're applying to asks for match funding? Is that
They-
part of it?
they could ask for match funding.
They
We
don't
said,
actually put that in the guidance.
oh, no, they don't. But when you're looking at capital works rather than doing the internal fit out, they'd expect an owner to actually be contributing. And then what they don't like is for them paying for maintenance work that should have been picked up before. So, yeah.
So where does that leave us?
So,
We've gone from 48 to 33.
so now we're sitting at a,
3% off.
let's just do that.
We've reduced the expenditure.
In a second.
20.
Let's just take it back.
38,000.
So there we are, a precept's at approximately 375.
Right, so that's gone up 10%, just over.
12%.
Right, so perhaps we can at this point also jump to this report here, which is not something that you've seen, which is obviously a discussion on the precept itself. The tax base for the precept is likely to change.
Yeah.
And we've got an estimate that that's going to be somewhere between 2.2 and 2.3. But that hasn't been decided yet. It won't be decided until next year, so it's speculative. But these projections show different things and different actions. I know that it originally started off as 400, but if we're looking to get to 375, that doesn't quite get us there. But you can see that that is not a massive increase on the council tax rate down there, 5%. So if we were to increase that further, let me just see if I could work it backwards. Because obviously there's the precept increase overall, but it's actually the increase in the council tax, which is the most relevant thing that people will see when it goes out there. Am I correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's this figure down here, the Band D tax, that one there, and how much they will actually pay. So I just need to work this backwards. Bear with me a second. So we're all doing calculations.
Sorry, Peter, I have to go. I've come back from work. I haven't had anything to eat. I'm back in work at 4 in the morning, so.
No, thank you for coming, Dean, and thanks for your contribution.
You're welcome.
So we're talking about council tax increase from £149.90 to £160.40. Is that what we're talking about?
The Band D would increase to £160.40, which is at the moment a 7% increase, so it's still high.
Over the year.
And that is based upon the upper projection for what the tax base may be. If you take the lower one, then obviously that's going to be higher than that.
We're actually talking about £11 a year.
But this is the complication here, and we have some costs which are in STBF, and because STC is funding STBF, that contribution could be reduced down if we reduce and do a similar job with reducing down some of those costs. And that's the interdependence that I was referring to. So sometimes it's easier looking at them both alongside each other, even though we can't. And just to give you, sorry.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but I've always assumed that STBF was funding STC, but you're telling us now that STC is funding STBF.
STC makes a contribution to STBF.
In what sense?
But
Providing some office accommodation.
I think it's the terminology that John's using. It's because it's contribution really towards the Guildhall and the museum, and that's where Sandwich Town Council is joint and severally liable to make that contribution.
I know nothing about where the contribution comes from other than it's there, and I don't have the means to ask anyone. So this information needs to be provided to me, but it does go that way, and That's all I know.
Okay.
If I,
So in essence, from last year to next year, sorry, this year to next year, the increase of for band D is £11.
Over the whole year.
So less than
Oh,
a
wow.
pound.
So it's less than £1 a month.
And that equates to 5%. But
Yeah.
7% would be slightly more, so probably £12.
if I can just show on here, that's the contribution that currently is being made from one to the other. Because now, if that is reduced down to 140,000, for example, that's putting 26,000 back off, it's dropping 26,000 off the required precept. So
we'll be covering that later on this evening.
yeah, so this will change again. So, I mean, although we're having a discussion here about what the precept is required, that could be less than that, depending on what is going to contribute to the other side.
Okay, can I just just be very clear, because we need to capture this for the second meeting. When I take it your 26,000 was not plucked out of the air, John.
Sorry, can you say it again?
I take it that your £26,000 suggested reduction was not plucked out of the air.
The 26,000 just takes it closer to what it was the previous
Okay,
year.
so it is plucked out of the
Yes.
air. Right, okay.
It's what's been required to go to the other side.
Okay.
If we don't do that, worry about that.
At
That's
the
fine.
moment,
Yeah.
to be very clear, you're not making a suggestion, well, you could do this in this particular budget area.
Yeah.
Thank you.
This particular budget, we paid across last year, a contribution of 136.
Yeah.
And if that figure was nearer to that figure, then obviously there'd be less of, that would be the more palatable way to go.
Well, thanks.
Can I just?
Yeah.
say, once we come below 5%, I'm sort of comfortable. I think after that, it's just a question of what is the most efficient way to go about things. But I think it's agreed generally here that 5%, we should stick to the general 5% maximum guideline for increasing the precept.
Well, yeah, this is what we do every year. We just say the guidelines is it's going up by so much, but Sandwich is a special case. We've got the Guildhall, we've got all of these additional costs. And at the end of the day, the average contribution is £160 a year, which is £3 a week to pay for everything in Sandwich Town Council. It's peanuts. You know, why are we being suppressed to 5% every year when, I know £3 a week is important, but it's less than the price of a cup of coffee.
Yeah, others can spin it in a very different way.
Yeah, the
Well,
other thing,
that's a different matter.
There's a document, John's got an interesting document.
what's coming up?
Anyway, let's move on.
So I was just going to say there was, I know you emailed it to me. There is also this document I'd like to share.
Oh, yeah.
Which is the contributions of the council tax. This is so small. Let's do this. This is for all of the town councils,
Yep, we're high, number 2.
and we are the highest one,
Yeah,
yeah.
we are. We have been for the last 10 years.
Yeah.
So you need to understand that it's long as.
Sorry, what's it show?
So this is the council tax band that is set for each council in Kent. And
This is Dover.
sorry, in Dover, but all of the other ones, and Sandwich Council is the highest. So the question is, you just need to be aware of that, because obviously that's the other political side of things. I obviously don't know the history, and I'm just being honest about that.
Yeah, I investigated that, and for more than 10 years, pretty well, it's been the highest. It dropped down to number 2 once. It has been the highest, so we're not.
And the factor that's making it the highest, is it the town council precept?
This is town council research.
Yeah, it's almost certainly the nature of the setup here, by comparison, we're close to Elsham, and, Ash and Alcombe, but, it is the highest one, and so it's just obviously.
Sorry, Colin, yeah.
I don't think we should pay too much attention to that because Sandwich is an outlier.
Yeah.
It's an exceptional historic town with a huge amount of, ceremonial stuff that we're required to do, and it has a low tax base. There's no way around that.
And it has a lot of assets.
And I think going back to the 7% or 10% or 5%, we have to bite the bullet. We can't carry on being a high spending council with low tax increases. So I'd be comfortable with 7%.
We should try and
So
achieve 5.
If we can achieve that 5,
Yeah.
then that's I'll just make a note
Less
of
than
that.
a pound a week.
Yes, but people understand the precept, so therefore they think that somehow the whole of their council tax is going to Sandwich Town
Yeah,
Council.
no,
That's
but
the
we'd have
problem.
to sell it. We'd have to promote,
Yeah,
And it's presented as such on Facebook, that you
Well,
can't sell it to council tax. Well,
Well, with respect, if that's a serious view held by people, we have to dissolution them. That's nonsense. It is complete and utter.
It is not,
Yeah, come on.
they're told it.
Come on, we're here for practical exercise, not here for theorising.
Okay, so where are we now?
So, well, I think we've reduced a number of things, but we should go back to the main budget and walk down the expenditure list.
Mhm.
Because the next item, which looks kind of crazy, is the payroll has jumped from 132,000 to 325,000.
So the whole payroll situation. So this is the whole thing that he's discussing separately. The way that it has been dealt with in the past, the way that it's been charged at in the past has been wrong, and we haven't been followed correct process. It's something that I've looked into. It's been confirmed that the payroll, all of the staff are employed by STC and no one else. So what we've been doing is we've been saying, okay, well, we use that person 10% in this element and that person 5% in that element. And we've been recharging just as a deduction against the wages across to the other side. Now, there's nothing wrong with, the bottom line is entirely correct. There is nothing wrong with the bottom line, but the way it's been gone about has been incorrect, because what we have to do is we have to show the liability of 100% of the payroll in STC, and then we have to recharge through a management fee from STC to STBF.
Yeah.
So what you have is you have that showing above the line as a revenue line, STBF management fees, £229,000. That never used to be there because it's got a 0 against the comparative. If you take that 229 and deduct that from the payroll costs below, and when I say payroll, it's everything highlighted in red there. It's payroll, other staff and contractors, because we manage the contractors to fill in where we don't employ. Those costs are actually lower than they were the previous year.
Yeah.
And that is, normally that would go up at least by 3 to 4% because of the pay rise that comes in, but that is lower than it was the previous year. Now, the only way that will change, and it's not so much on here, is if we have, it's more to do with the other side of the business, to do with security costs. But as far as STC is concerned, that's the reason why you've got a complete uplift. Now, this will mean that we do need to restate the previous year's accounts. That's an unfortunate side of it. We have to do it because we've got to do it correctly. We need to go back and say that last year's was different. The bottom line is still the same. It's not a major qualification, but the auditor will have to qualify the figures to say that we did it differently. And once it's done, it's out of the
I
way.
think we understand the point. Colin?
That's quite straightforward to me. I think, I congratulate John for coming up with this, because clearly the staff are all employed by STC. That's what it says on the contract. Is that right?
Yeah.
They're then farmed out to the different bits of the organisation. So that 229 is balanced by the uplift, just under 200,000 in the pay. So, I mean, I think the thing to highlight here is the absurdity of STBF paying STC, 229,000, and then STC paying the STBF 136,000. I mean, it's kind of money in, money out. It shows the absurdity of the whole
Okay.
scenario.
And also thanks to Julian for driving down the costs as well, so that's.
Yeah,
So I think,
absolutely.
that's the key big issues.
Okay, so are there any other comments on, because we really need to kind of to close this out now and to bring a proposal to Sandwich Town Council. This is really the first time we've sat round to discuss this. I thought there was going to be some kind of discussion offline beforehand about all of this, so it's been a bit, difficult going through this, but are we there now with the modifications we've made? We're ready to take this to Sandwich Town
This follows the
Council.
pattern as last year. We did one pass, this
Yeah.
is what we're doing the first pass,
Yeah,
then we do the second pass at STC,
and then we can.
Yeah. and we should always do it in public in any case, so we're doing the right thing. And hopefully when we go to STBF in a minute, we might be able to
Assist.
reduce on that side, yeah.
Assist on that side. Okay, so we know the budget, we're clear about the next steps on the budget, and thank you, John. It's a really complicated issue, this, and we're grateful to you, the way you've got your head around it, and with the improvements that you're proposing. I think we're all very supportive of that. Okay.
So I'd like to, you got a proposer?
So we're proposing, we've got a proposer. So on the actual agenda, it said we should consider the current financial.
Let's
Let's
do it as a whole.
just do it as a whole. Okay. So we're all clear on the process. We've made some modifications. The report is now ready to go to Sandwich Town Council. You're proposing,
Subject to the STBF conversation.
Yeah.
That's,
and we're all, thank you, Martin, we're all in agreement on that.
okay.
Okay, so the penultimate item on, on the Sandwich Town Council Finance and General Purposes is attachment 10, for us to consider the HR provider, to receive a report from the HR provider from the HR provider from the town clerk, which seems to be asking for direction should we move forward with Work Nest or continue with Peninsula.
I mean, what do you want to do? There's two, I mean, the summary of it really is there's two large providers. One is cheaper than the other, but the more expensive one is sector specific and seems to be slightly more responsive. As far as I'm concerned, I don't have any experience of either. So it's really what the council wants to do.
So I think in the HR committee, we said that, my recollection, I certainly said that we needed to look at where the current provider might not be meeting what we would want and to see.
I don't think this is a new contract for new contract proposal. So it will be
It's a
going.
new contract for a new contract. Right.
It's not a question of rejigging the current arrangement. I said, their contract is terminated.
Yes, it was.
It has been terminated.
Yeah.
So we're looking at new for new, basically.
So what, could you remind the meeting what the difference in the costs was, please?
It's here, it's on the page.
Oh, sorry, I printed that page off.
Yeah. £670, yeah.
And this is, Workness is sector specific. The only other thing that we don't use with Peninsula was they have a module for managing staff absence, leave, etc., which we don't use.
We don't currently use them.
We don't currently use.
I would, because it's new for new, I would be going to them and saying, I need it to work, make it work. Because I think we need to be having, there's all sorts of HR reasons that we need to be storing employment policies on there so that staff can access them and they can never say, well, you never gave us the sickness or the absence or the grievance or whatever. So they need to have it all on their phones and downloadable at will.
Yeah.
But both of those, that's there with both providers.
Okay, Councillor Wells?
As I recall, when this was discussed at HR committee, we said that the town clerk would speak to Peninsula to see if the current issues or problems can be addressed.
That's what I just said.
There's nothing to address, they're new for new, you know.
Okay. Yeah. But in terms of their past.
I don't know what their past is, I've never dealt with them.
Well, you know, that comes out because it does, you know, the report does say that the previous town clerk was unhappy, but you haven't got any
No,
current
she
experience
told
on
me that she tried to get hold of Peninsula, I mean, I have limited knowledge, she said she tried to get hold of Peninsula on a HR matter and they were not responsive, so that the council had to pay for supplementary advice because Peninsula were not responsive. She advised me to go find something else, which is why I went through this process.
Right, my only comment on it is that I checked how many different councils there are, because when I saw 450 councils, I thought, well, if they're working for 450 councils, they've got a monopoly. There's 317 councils in England, but maybe they're including Scotland and Wales, I don't know, but, you know, so that was a bit of a strong claim.
Peninsula.
No, by Worknest.
Worknest, which is the local authority specialist.
I mean, I think we should bite the bullet and, you know, give Worknest a.
Okay, so you're making that as a proposal.
I'm proposing.
Okay, so we have a vote on that then.
Agreement.
I'll second that.
It's a bit more expensive.
I'll second that. I think they're a better organisation.
So there's over 10,000 parish and town councils in England.
Yeah.
Isn't that?
There's 350 district or unitary, I think, roughly.
Okay, so I think the vote is that we go with Worknest and give them a try. Is everybody happy to?
Do you know
Not on that.
whether you want to go for 36 or 60 months?
We could break at 36 if we did the 60 months, is that right? Okay, then just that.
Yes, that's what it says, yeah.
Yes, with 36 months service fee, and I was.
3 years. 5 years with a 3-year break.
So Mr Mayor's not happy with that
I
proposal.
think we're just looking at a box graph in front of us and making the decision that has a difference of, if you go for the first 6 months, nearly £1,000 a year in terms of cost. I think that's a bit naive of us, but that's my personal view.
But we need to vote on the proposal, it's got
Yeah, I'm voting against the proposal.
It's £700, it's not.
No, we're going for 36 months, it's 2,275 plus that versus 1,572 plus that. So it's about £1,000. If you add the VAT in.
What does the town clerk think?
I'm not spending council's money.
Can we not get sort of references or feedback?
I included a review from the Laura Fiddler, who was the previous town clerk, who was currently using Worknest and seemed to lean that way, but said wasn't conclusive either way. You know, you're comparing, you know, I don't know.
For what it's worth, I've used both
Well, that's
many
useful.
years, and my opinion, it's just my opinion, is that Peninsula was a far inferior service because they were far more of a sales-driven type thing. Let's get your business, let's give you a phone call, let's deal with this, and
Yeah, that was very much the sales approach.
yeah,
that I
it's a sales
felt.
approach rather than the service approach, and then when
Got
things
shy
go
man
wrong,
from
sorry, you're
Manchester.
on your own. But that's just my opinion, and I've worked in like large employment companies. I know a lot of other gentlemen have and ladies have, but it's just that's just my experience with the two companies. But
Okay, so are we've still got the proposal that we go with Worknest for 36 months. I note the mayor's comments. I think given the total cost of the HR staffing budget, it's worth we're trying to get the best staff, we should get the best support services to work with them.
And let's hope they are.
And let's hope they are. So,
I would recommend 60 months because you have a three-year break clause.
right, so it's 60 months with work nest is the proposal from Councillor
Well,
Wiles.
it's a few £100 a year more.
No, it's 60 months is cheaper.
It is cheaper.
Yeah, it's the 36 one, that's the expensive one. More or more expensive?
60 months is cheaper.
The previous contract with Peninsula was for 60 months.
Yeah.
So that's what we were running with before.
Didn't HR not make a recommendation on this between the two?
No,
No, because it's expenditure, so of whatever amount it is, so it needs to come to finance.
2583.
it's what, £600 a year more.
8.
Plus a bit more for insurance.
Multiplied by 126.
Yeah. Say £700 a year more.
No, it's more because there's the additional cost further down.
Yeah, it's only £100 more.
2583
tribunals.
minus 1662. So the difference is £921 a year.
Including that.
Yes, including that.
We get the VAT back, don't we?
Do you want this service?
Sorry?
Do we get the VAT back on this? We don't get that back on everything. Do we get it back on this?
Yes, it's a service, so it would be VAT.
Good. Okay.
All right, so it's about £700 a year. Right, and it's £700 a year when we're spending £385,000 a year on staff. So I think we should.
I think the former town clerk was not happy with them.
Yeah.
The finance officer said that the alternative are good. I think we should just.
Well, you've proposed it, so propose it.
Yeah.
I'll second it again.
Okay, let's have a vote on it then. Right.
Okay.
So-
We have to count.
Four green, 2 abstentions,
3 abstentions.
3 abstentions. All right. Thank you very much. That brings us to the very last item on the agenda, which is the date and time of the next meeting, which is the 17th of December at 8:30. Apologies that the meeting has taken so long. And now close the meeting at 5 to 9.
Thank you.
Okay. Before I start the next meeting, I do suggest we've been sitting here for 2.5 hours. I don't think that's particularly hard. I suggest we have a 3 or 4 minute break before we start on our, are we in agreement with that, folks?
Yes.
Let's do it now. And then we'll start the meeting. Pardon?
Star Jack.
Start, well, you, lead the way, lead the way. No.
Sorry? Thank you. We got